All right, good morning. We are back at the boatyard working on the 30 Island Hopper. Spent the last couple of days pulling off all the stickers and the glue. That was a nightmare after it had baking in the sun for 20 years. The only thing that we could do was actually I took a grinder and we ground it off with that sander that's on the ground there with an 80 grit. It took off both the vinyl and the glue. I power washed the boat yesterday before I left the yard. I had gotten up to, on this side, a 120. We started off with a 60 grit across the whole thing. If you remember, I even used a belt sander on some of it just because it was so bad. The initial intention of the boat was just to basically sand it down and put a fresh coat of paint on it. As everything else that I do with my projects, once we got into it, it was an absolute train wreck. And you can see that I've basically taken it down to bare glass and just the gel coat in a lot of areas. This paint was, it was painted on. It was a dive boat. It just needed to kind of look clean, but it was very, very built up. It was flaking off and just wasn't going to give us a good substrate for the Amaron paint that we're going to be putting on. It's a very expensive paint, so we want it to look as nice as possible. And there's a little bunch of pot marks here. We're going to fix a couple of these little dings. Most of the stuff we're sanding out. I'm trying not to go too crazy on this because, again, this is a commercial boat. If this was a Hatteras or a Viking or something, I'd spend a little bit more time, but we're pretty much back down to the gel coat. So I just did my first round of 220. After this, I'm going to go up to a 300, and then we're going to stop at 400, and then that should be ready and prepped for our primer and paint. Top side, we've got one round of sanding done. We did a 120 sand across the entire top. The majority of those surfaces, even the top deck right up here, we've got sanded down. We took down the life ring support. That I believe I'm probably going to do in a non-skid. So again, basically what we're looking for there is a nice substrate to apply the non-skid. Because you're doing a non-skid, it doesn't have to be up to a 400 and a perfectly smooth surface. So this side I've got down to an 80 grit. And you can see a couple little more pot marks and stuff like that. Some crazing in the fiberglass that we've kind of ground out. All of this stuff, because the paint is so thin, that's going to actually come back out in the paint. So we've got to grind all that out. This is where the big piece of diamond plate was. Got a couple holes that we're going to fill in there, and then again all the pot marks and cracking of the gel coat. We've got to go back through and fill all this stuff in and get it refared out before we paint. And then a couple little nicks and dings you can see right up in here, and then as well as down in here where it's been rubbing against the piling all these years. We're going to clean that up and get that all faired out probably today as well. So that's the progress. Hopefully the weather is going to, and get the back off here too, hopefully the weather's going to hold out. We're not going to paint today because there is a pretty good chance of rain, but we're going to try and mask and get that ready to go for tomorrow. So that's the progress of the 30 Island Hopper. We'll take some more video before we paint. Carolina Marine Group, talk to you soon. Bye.